Okay. Oh, screen is not visible. Sushant, could you please confirm whether I am audible or not, or what is it? Or screen is not visible. What's the problem? Hello, I'm getting confused. Okay, I am audible. I hope so. Thank you for confirmation. We will start the session. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you all for confirmation. Let me start the session. So yesterday we have covered an update statement, then case statement, order by clause, how it works, then some other stuff also we have learned like how to use order by clause in a how to use a case statement in a where clause, or if you want a particular record at the top level, then how to get that record in a top level. Uh, we have learned that part. Okay, so today we will learn like the problem is you have a table with a nullable columns. Okay, and you would like to return rows either whether that column is null or whether that column is not null. Okay, so how can we get that? The first hurdle to overcome when working with null is to remove where clause from your mind. So where some column equals to null is nothing like that. Like null is never equals to null. Okay. So the second hurdle is that remove this clause where some column is not equal to null. Then I will show you. Basically, null represents, as you know, that null represents a non-value. So that is null is never equals to null. And if you do any calculation with the null, then you will get a null values, meaning that for example in a bank, if there is a customer called 123 and he has 100 rupees, there is another customer called let me show you. For example, there is a customer 123 and he has 100 rupees in his account. 100 rupees. There is a one more customer 456 and in his balance is null. So it's not like that. Or there is one more customer called 789. Okay, and like we also don't know the balance of these two customers. Now if you want to get the values, you cannot you can't say that this customer whatever balance has equals to this customer. Okay, because they both have the null values. So if you try to equate the values with the null, then you will not get any particular result. You will get a null. So I will show you. Like for example, I have a. If you do a calculation 1 plus 1, then you will get 2 here value because it will do the operation. But what if I and null is not one more thing is null is not a blank value or null is not a zero value. Okay, so if I try to mention null here, then what I will get? I will get a null because we don't know what is the value. It is the absence of the value. So what like it could be here one, it could be two or three. So you will get a null. So if you add something with the null or if you do any operation with the null, then you will get a null. For example, if you want to do a concat, okay, there is a string A, and then if you want to do a concat, then you will get again null. But if I do a concat means to combine two strings. If there is a string and if I am using a plus or concat sign, then I will get a AB as a value. So while dealing with null, you have to be very careful. So and like does null equals to 1? No. And is null, I mean even this null is not equal to null. So this is also not the case. I mean this will not be never equal. Okay, let me show you one example. We will declare a when variable. So to declare a variable in SQL, we use a keyword declare. Then you can mention a variable name, in my case val, and then data type. Consider the data type as integer. Then the value we will assign null to this integer, sorry, to this uh, variable. Let me change from val to variable. Variable. Okay, variable. So here we are assigning. We have created a variable name called. Let me change the variable to A. So I have created a variable name called A. The data type is integer, and I have assigned value to null. Now, if I try to write a select statement case when @A equals to null, then 1, when @A not equals to null, then 2, when @A is null, then 3, and end. Yesterday we have learned case statement. Okay, so if the value of the A, that is null, if it is equal to null, then it should return a first value. Okay, so whenever the first condition gets satisfied, or if it is executed as a true, then it will not go to this condition. Okay, this statement will execute it the first time and it will not go further. Now if A is not equal to null, then it should return 2. And now I will show you the third option. When A is null, then it should return 3. Now let me execute. Like, you may think that this null should equals to null. In that case, if this condition gets true, that is null equals to null, it should return me 1. But let's see what it will return. See, it is returning 3. So, meaning that if you want to deal with a null data, then you have to pass a condition as A is null. Okay, the column name and then null. Let me go to AdventureWorks database, expand it, and show will show you one example. Uh, okay, if I want this record, see you can see there is only one uh, record which has a organization node as null value. If I want that record, then how can I get? Instead of all this stuff, I will write a star operation, then where you may think that if you want to get this record, then you will pass like or node organization node equals to null and try to execute this. See, you are not getting the result. So if you want to get the result where null is present, then just specify, instead of the equal, just specify is null. Now execute this. So you will get the result. Okay. So while dealing with the null, always keep in mind that is null always returns true whenever there is a true value or unknown value. And if you want to get all non-null organization node, then how can you write? Just mention not here. It's sorry, is not null. In that case, this business entity ID 1 will not come. Okay. it will start from the second, or you can consider it will not return this row, or it will not return such rows where the organization node is null. So let me execute this query. Okay, you can see I got all the rows where null is not exist or null is not present. So to get the data from uh, like if you want to get a null records, then just specify that column name and then is null clause. And if you want not null records, then specify not keyword in between is and null. And there is one more function called okay, so this is null function. There is one more function called is null. So there is a difference between this null and this is null. So this is null will check true or false, whereas this will this will check is null will check let me write here is null. This will check, this is null will check whether the values are true, yeah, whether the values are null or not null, and where this is null, the one which is in pink color will replace the null value with the other value. Let me show you one more example. So I have a table, select star from, we have a table human resources. Under human resource schema, the table name is job candidate. Okay, so for example, this is a table. Let's see what are the values in this table. You can see the business entity. Okay, there are so many values where null is present, or and there are few values where null is again not present. Like apart from null, there is there are few values. Okay, there is null value as well as other values also present. Now if you want to get the all the values, then you will write uh, is what business entity ID is is null. Okay, now here instead of null, what I want unknown. Okay, so my result should be in such a way that the business entity, wherever there is a null, I want unknown, like the string unknown. So how can I achieve that? You can just like we will take only these two columns. These columns are not required at all. So what I will do, will take a job candidate ID and business entity ID. We'll execute this. See, I'm getting all null records. Now what I want, I will remove this one. We'll execute. So is null. I'm trying to explain the difference between is null, is space null, and the is null keyword. Now, instead of this, let me execute one more time this one. What I want, wherever there is a null, I want it to be replaced with unknown value, unknown keyword, and wherever there is a value, I don't want to change that value. So how can I achieve? Using this function. So what I will do, this function will take the syntax of this function is null keyword, then round bracket, then column name or any expression, then specify what you want. If the business entity has a value null, then what you want? You want unknown. Okay, unknown, or you can specify not available. Okay, now let me give a column name as business entity ID. Now let's execute this one. Oh, okay. I'm getting error because mm, okay, let me show you why I'm getting an error. Why I was getting error. So what I'm trying to do is null, then the value or the data type of this business entity ID column is integer. If I try to replace this entity ID with some string, then I will get an error because it has a data type integer, and if I trying to convert it into the varchar, then I will get an error. So to avoid that, what I will do, instead of like null value, I will keep here 0. Okay, so wherever there is a null, I want to replace it with 0. I can achieve it by using a cast operation, but I haven't explained the what is cast and convert. So I will explain it later, or I will show you how can we achieve is like even NA also. So instead of NA, now I will put as 0. Let me execute this one. Now see, I will show you the original value. This is the original value, and I will give this column as something called 2. Okay, so this 2 column I have derived from this one using this function is null function. Let me execute it. See, this is the original value. This is coming from the table, and this is derived. So I am explicitly changing the business entity ID's value to 0 wherever there is a null. So by using null function, what you can do, you can change a value, you can change a null value to non-null value or any value. Now, instead of 0, what I want unknown, okay, or NA, not available. So how can I check? Like I was getting error. Let me show you what was the error. So the thing is that if you check the business entity ID, the values are in integer, okay, and there is a conflict, okay. So here you can check that, okay. Here instead of the null I'm getting 0, okay. So this field has a data type integer, and now here I'm changing it into the NA, that is characters. It will not allow. So to achieve that, I have to change this business entity's data type. So how can I change? Using cast operator or cast function, then cast, then specify the column name, and then varchar. I can specify the length as 10. Let me execute. Now instead of 0, uh, see, earlier we were not using business entity ID is null, and then I will not, like I will show you both the things. So in this statement, I am trying to convert the null values to 0 without any conversion function. Okay, this is cast is conversion function, and here I will let me change the column name to I will short like BID 3, and what I will do BID 2. So this business entity ID, now let's see, I will execute it. Now I can convert this value to NA. Earlier I was getting error. Reason that this is the integer value, and I was trying to convert it into the characters. So it was not possible. So what I did, I have changed the data type of this field to varchar, and then I have mentioned this string or characters. But in SQL Server, it is not. I haven't changed the data type. Like at the table level, still at, at table level, still data type is integer or big int, whatever it is. Let me show you that. It's under job candidate, right? See, ID is integer. Still the value is integer, okay? But here, just like for selection purpose, I am changing the value. So there is a difference. ISNULL will check the value whether there is a null or not, and this ISNULL function will change a value from null to some other value. So this is used for the replacement purpose, where this is used for to check whether the values are null or not null. So by using this function also, you can get the result. Let me show you. Now what I want, yeah, now see what I want all null records or not non-null records. So how can I get? The query is where job entity ID is not null. So I'm getting only those records where business entity ID has a value or it does not have a null value. How can I achieve the same thing using isNull function? So just replace, you can use isNull, then replace that null value. If you see earlier, let me execute task query. See here null is there. Okay, so internally SQL Server will change the value of this null to something else. So what I will do, instead of wherever there is a null, I want to change to 1 and then not equals to 1, and I will remove this one. So these two query will give you the same result. Let me execute. See, this is the output of this query, and now let me execute these two query in one time. So you can achieve using isNull keyword or isNull function also, and with is not null uh, testing condition. It is not advisable to use isNull function here in the where clause, because if there is an index on this field, it will not give a proper like we use index for performance, so it will not give a proper performance. So basically whenever there is an index, it will try to do the seek operation, that is it will directly give the result, whereas in case if you use any function in the where clause, it will go for the scan. Let me execute these both queries and I will explain the plan. It is little bit advanced concept. See, in first this is the query plan of the first query, where I am using is not null and I am getting what I am getting. I am getting seek. You can see here there is a seek, index seek is there, and here scan, meaning that it will try to go, it will search for each and every record. Okay, this is the best. Wherever it is a seek, it's best. Okay, I will like in future videos or in future lessons I will explain what is seek and what is scan, but keep in mind that seek is always better than scan. I will show you how internally it works. Okay, let let's check this. Let let me take only top few records, top 10 records, and how it works. I will show you. Okay, for example, why I was not getting these records in this query. Top 2. Let me take only top 2 instead of the top 10 so that I will explain you. So in first query, I am getting null records, but here what is happening internally SQL Server, this is null. Okay, wherever there is a null, it is replacing with the 1. So if here is a null, then you can check this one query. Let me show you here as to see. Here is null. Okay, this is the original value. This first two column has a original value. Now let's check. The original value is null, and with this expression I am changing null value to 1, and then what I am trying to achieve, I am just like here it has changed this value to 1, and then I am not negating this with 1. Okay, meaning that 1 is equals to 1, but what I am doing, I am doing deliberately not equals to 1 so that I will get those records where null is not exist. So these are the output of, this is the output, or these are the records of this query. Let me show you a little bit more advanced concept, how it internally SQL Server treats. Okay, so I got an error stating that this statement must be the only statement in the batch. To distinguish between the batch, or to distinguish between the two statements, or to distinguish between two statements, I will use like we will use semicolon, but to distinguish between the two batch, we should use go keyword. Okay, so that's the error. And to execute this statement, this should be a for a like this should fall under separate batch, and this statement will fall under separate batch still for this one also. So I am just separating the batches, and let me execute. Let me show you how SQL Server internally treats. See, this is what we have written here, right? This is the query, but internally SQL Server what is trying here, just check business entity ID 1 not equals to 1. So it, what it will does, like wherever there is a null, it will replace with the null, and sorry, it will replace with the 1, and then it will try to equate this, but in this case I am just mention not equal, so I will not get null records. You can check here. Okay, how internally SQL Server changes this function to this is null to 1, or null value to 1. This is the part. Okay, then null, we have covered null. Okay, coalesce function, this is one more. It also works similar to ISNULL function, but if you check the syntax of this ISNULL function, you can specify source expression and then replacement value. So it will accept only one value as a source, and it will replace whatever we are passing. If I have a multiple null values, or if I want to specify multiple sources, then it will not give me the output. Let me show you. If I have two null values, okay, is null, mm, if let me check, is there any field where more than one column has null value? Let me check. Um, do we have anywhere multiple null values? Okay, probably employee table may have. Okay, well, let me check. Go with the person table. Okay, see, we have multiple null values here. Title, then this Robert and null value. Okay, so instead of taking all business entity is not required, person type is not required, name style is not required, null is there. Okay, so if I want what it does, this will return first non-null values. So here in this case, if you check in the title, okay, so the first null value, I will take only three fields here. One, two, three. Okay, I will exclude all the stuff, other stuff. Okay. Now, what coalesce does? It takes first non-null values. So if I use that function, let me use here at the last. Then title, comma, first name, comma, last name. Oh, sorry, middle name. Let me copy it from here itself. Let me see. Is null if you want to replace this title with some other value, then what you will use? You will use is null function. But what if you want first non-null values? What I want basically, I want the full name. Okay, the first title, then first name, then middle name, and last name. So how can I achieve that? Mm, mm, mm. Let me show you one more example. So for example, I want to do concat. Okay, the plus operator will basically has full name and as FL2. See, this full name is null. Okay, why it is null? Because if you do any operation with the null operation, then you will get a null. So null plus anything will be written as null. Okay, but here let's check. It is returning the first non-null values. See coalesce. So first null non-null value for this function is first name. Then for this function is Mr. So it has written Mr. Let's check here. For this function again Mr. Let me take other way. Uh, I will not take the first name. I will only take title, middle name and last name. Title, middle name and last name. Okay, let me execute now this one. Let's see. In this case, the first non-null value was middle name. So it has written that value. In this case, Lee is the non-null value. Here, if you check, this two field has null value and third field has value. So it has written third value. That is, the coalesce will return the first non-null values. So you can use either coalesce or is null. But if you want to deal with the multiple fields, that time you will use you have to use a coalesce function. Most of the time, this is used when you are dealing with the multiple fields, or if you are dealing with the mm, non-null, null values. That time it has been used. Then what is the third? NULLIF. Okay. So NULLIF function is used to replace the inconsistent values with null values and clean the database. So let me show you one example. For example, mm, when can use, let me check any example for this NULLIF. Mm, mm, okay, is there anywhere equals to, okay, we'll check. Okay, we'll check these two expression and I will show you where this is used. So what if I want, if this salaried flag and current flag is equals to 1, then only I want to show as 1, otherwise null. Meaning that case when, let me take these two fields. So whenever there is a equate, right, salaried flag and the current flag, then only I want to show 1, otherwise I want to show null. So how can I achieve that? Using case statement. Case when salaried flag equals to current flag, then 1, else null. And let's see, it is showing me null here. Now what I want, instead of this 0, I want a null value. You can achieve the same using null if then salted flag equals to 0. See here, instead of this 0, if I want to put anything else, or like if I want to put a null value, then I will use nullif function. Output put underscore null if, or for example, there are cases, the person, right? For example, let me check whether the middle name is blank or not somewhere. To get a blank record, you can use middle name, where middle name equals to there is no such a record. Let me update this null value with middle name, blank value. Update person this table. So the syntax to update is table name set middle name equals to blank values where middle name is null. So wherever there is a null, it will replace with these blank values. So now you can see there are around 8,499 records. Okay, you can see now the blank value is there. Now what I want to achieve, wherever there is a blank, I want to replace with the null. So how can I achieve? Let's see, check this middle name. Okay, now null if what? If middle name is equals to blank, then it will return me. I will try for the bifurcation purpose. You can see, let me execute this. So here there is a blank value. So this nullif middle, this is the derived column. It has given me null values. So if you want to change a value from like any value to null, then you can use nullif, and like in my case I want blank value to be treated as null, so I have passed the blank value. To consider the blank value or to get the blank value, like don't give any space, just single inverted comma. What? Just give me one more minute. So this is the null if. Okay, so today we have learned. Oh, why it's not working? So we have learned null, which is used to check whether the values are null or not in a particular field. ISNULL is used to replace a value. Then coalesce is also used to replace a value.